Stories are a wonderful way to share history, presence, and mystery. And that's what I'd like to do today is to share through this video a little bit about my history that got me to this present, share a little bit about the presence of what it is that I'm working with and on, and to outline the mystery that I'm going into, that I'm going to live from. Now, to be able to do this, I'm going to have this video broken up into three different components. The first one will bring the sense of where I've come from, the evidence that I'm bringing forward, and leaning it into what we'll call education and experience. Then what I'm going to do is bring forth the education that allows me to bring the different kinds of projects and programs forward that I'm asking you to get involved with. And then I'm going to talk about the new experiences that I'm going for in the unfolding of my life as I see it happening today. And what I'm going to do is to place that in perspective for you is I'm going to use three different backgrounds. And they're going to highlight what is unfolding. So the first background will be of myself in like a library. The second one will bring you back to this because there's some things I'd like to share with you, some ideas that I think the whiteboard will help out with. And then the third one will have a little bit more of a fantasy look to it. So let's get started by going into the history and the evidence of living a hale and hearty life. Just as a quick reminder, we're going to start off with the evidence aspect, move into the education aspect, and finish up with the experience. Now, these three words are going to be popping out quite a bit as we move through. So I just wanted to give you this hint here just to as a placeholder. From an evidence point of view, I think you can tell library, books. They played a very important role in my life. And it's because I was curious. If you were to look up my name in the personal dictionary, my middle name would be Curiosity. And if I give a little bit of a chronological aspect, which will give some evidence of my history, you might be able to appreciate where I'm coming into my presence, which is the second story that I will share with you before I go into the third story of the mystery. So my biggest placement would go back into the world of recreation and leisure. That's where I was introduced to program management, play, and with that came a lot of responsibility for someone who was quite young. I was interacting with other kids along the way, and it gave me a very solid foundation of what it meant to do this program planning, coming up with ideas that were fun and had freedom and were fulfilling for those who were interacting with me at the time. And I went all the way through the camp counselor world, the outdoor camps, all the way up into running play programs while I was going to school. And in there, I met one of my first two mentors. And each of them, from a recreation point of view, gave me access to what I'll call the creative process that's been a thread through my life. And I always remembered them saying to me, about recreation is about recreation, about the creation of something. And that always stuck with me. And that allowed me to just unfold lots and lots of ideas and play with things and give things a go. I think we would call that experimentation, mistakes made, learnings created from that. And that was just a wonderful way for me to go, oh, okay, I see where this is possible. And what that led me was, I guess the best way to describe it and have a little fun with it is I ended up with more letters after my name than I have in my name. What I'm talking about is that I have 4 degrees and a diploma. So I spent quite a few years in the university setting. That's why the library and pulling ideas and writing papers and doing all that kind of work. But it was split so much in one decade, another decade, another decade. It wasn't that I did a one fell swoop through. So I had the opportunity to do a lot of practical kind of activities as well, which I think was great. When I first left high school, I went into university and started off in something called civil engineering. Something called civil engineering. I didn't last very long. It wasn't for me. I ended up going into forestry. And with the forestry, I ended up saying, okay, I got what I need from a diploma point of view. I am going to go play in different parts of the world. And that was going to be England and Australia. And that was going to be 6 months. Well, guess what? 4 years later, I came back. Along the way, I had some really great experiences, evidence of that in all the journals that I've written, poetry that I've written, in the bins that are around me. They're not so much up in bookshelves as they are in bins, and I'll explain that one in a few minutes. But the idea was that of all those experiences, I came back and jumped into other experiences and said, "Oh, I'm going to go back." And I went back and got 2 degrees at the same time, and along that did a lot more recreation-related work. And then I popped along and said, I think I'll do my master's in environmental recreation geography. So studying social, cultural groups and their impact in the environmental movement and how they interact with one another. That was a glorious time because that gave me an opportunity to get involved in a couple of other types of work. And that led me to a couple of overseas missions. One was as a development delegate to interact with the Ugandan Red Cross on an HIV/AIDS health promotion program. And a year and a half later, I went back and worked on an air operations coordinator role for the relief aircraft flying into the war zone and in a country that was at war that then split apart. And that gave me an opportunity to see humanity at its worst and to experience some of that and what that meant to deal with that in my own life. When I came back from that, I decided I think I'm going to do something I've always wanted to do, and I got my doctorate. And I got it in adult education, high performance technology, looking at it through that lens of facilitative work, the adult education, adult learning, because I thought I could put that to use in my team building consulting kind of work that I did. And in there, I spent time as a whitewater rafting guide for 22 summers. I instructed wilderness remote first aid as instructor trainer of instructor trainers. So I had lots and lots of different kinds of experiences. The evidence that came with that was in all the tools and techniques I created. And that's why this background is here to remind you is that right now I've written 20 books. I have written different kinds of activities into, I think it's another 15 books. I've assisted a number of doctoral learners in their doctoral studies. So I have my fingerprint on those. I've written lots and lots of articles. I have evidence, poetry and all of that. And with all of that experience and evidence, I've come to say, where am I in my own life? And that's where it's going to take me now into the story of my present living. And I'm going to go back to the whiteboard as a way in which to explain it. So again, this was a story of evidence collecting from the different kind of experiences that I had, just so that you might understand where am I currently and how I might be able to interact with you. And you can certainly ask questions, or if you want more evidence, I can certainly dig around and find some of that for you before I explain where I'd like to go in terms of my mystery and really dig into some different kind of experiences, which will be the third story. As I move into the second story I wanted to share with you, I just want to remind you, based on this diagram, I've given you the evidence of my history, and what I'd like to do now is look at more of my presence and bring the story of education into it before I go after the second story I wanted to share with you is about bringing evidence and education together. And I'm doing it through this diagram. So it's a bit of a shift, but you will see that evidence, education, experience pop up here as I do a little fill in. Now, this is the way in which I would like to interact with you. And it's framed by the notion of mentoring as legacy. Now, those are two words that have become very important to me, and I'll explain why through this diagram here. So what I'm sharing with you is a sense that if you think that mentoring is something that might be of interest to you, or learning about mentoring to mentor, and you would like to explore and what does that mean in terms of your intention to leave the legacy you wish to live, then this framing, I think, will be of great assistance to you, especially if you find yourself as an older to elder. In other words, as a younger, I think I'm now an older, and I'm thinking 55 plus years young. It could be a little later, it could be that's a decision that you make. But this notion of then older to elder is a distinction the community in which you interact given to you. And therefore, this younger, older, elder dynamic, fascinated about, curious about, and would like to explore through legacy. Because the mentoring is one of the ways in which you can bring this sense of we educate what we love to learn. And if you have desire to continue to learn and you would like to use an educator approach, then mentoring is available to you. And if it is that you want to learn more about some topic that you'd like to share with others, you could put the framework of legacy around that, and therefore mentoring as legacy. Remember, I shared with you is this notion of evidence. Well, the evidence that I've gathered over the years, I've come to understand the importance of wealth, about well-being and well-living to the nth degree, because I'm on, and well-living because of my interactions with others together. Now, this becomes really important, and there's a lot more to this that I can unpack as time goes by. But the bottom line is to look at your own wealth. Where are you at this point, well-being and well-living? Where are you? If you're 55 plus years young, using age, you have a sense of your wealth. And that is something you've got to come to terms with. And let me give you an example. I am 70.5 years young. In other words, I'm 70.5 revolutions around the sun. There's some things I have to take into consideration here for my own well-being and well-living. And those are present, some of them coming at me faster than others. I still love to walk, get out with the dog at least 2 times per day to get in a number of steps. Some days I go for longer walks. Usually Monday morning, I like to go for a really long walk before I get into my week. So this notion of your own wealth, but that wealth is experienced with others. So you have your well-being for self and well-living with others. And what that brings forward is aging, and in particular, for some of us, solo aging. Let me share again. Solo aging, don't have family directly around, don't have that support system that we associate with lives. We are, for the most part, single, moving through life, sometimes by our own, sometimes by events that have taken place. And what we do is we rely. Now, we may be estranged from family, whatever it might be, but I'm a solo aging. That's where I am at this point in time. I travel single. I'm actually a digital nomad, solo ager. And that's in my life is evidence of I sold my home and gave everything I owned away. And I visit places, interact with others in supporting dog walking, house sitting, these kind of activities, just to have some variations and enjoyment in my life. So there's this sense of aging that's coming on us. And because of this, and being able to understand this, and what I'm really interested in is the whole notion of, one of the solo aging confidently. You might go gracefully, you could put there contently. There are other words, but for me, solo aging confidently, that self assuredness and the self concept that, yes, I can do this. I have the wherewithal to do it with others because together. And therefore, if I'm doing this, I can deal with the hindrances of sometimes people express isolation or mental health situations or a loss of purpose, a lack of support. They'll use words like that, the hinder related words. Whereas you can replace them with remain relevant, leverage experience, involve yourself with nature as a self-care companion, muse and metaphor. There's other ways in which you can reframe your language into solo aging confidently. And these are activities that I have, and they are ways that you're finding yourself wondering what's taking place. And what that leads to is the notion of the FS, the felt safety. Now, the felt safety aspect is really about, do you have the safe systems in place and the safer practices that you put in use to be able to take care of yourself? This is a term they're using now, psychological safety, mental health safety, being able to take care of yourself, but also set up a structure around you. Because from an aging point of view, healthcare might become an issue, or something like aging in place. How do you feel safe in that kind of situation? Other words I associate with this are the preparation checklist, the prevention backpack, practice continuance that I associate here. Now, you'll notice that that is something that is linking over into here, because as understanding of your own life and what it is that you can pull from, then that is of great use to you as you move into the other aspects of your life. So herein is the importance of understanding your legacy. Legacy is about the useful what's that you gift others so that they might learn something from your experiences. All right. Being able to draw this in to be able to work with it. It's gifts the heart, head. And the useful what's are time, effort, and money. How are you putting those into action, support of yourself? How will people remember you? These kind of terms. What's that meaningful impact that you'd like to leave? And what you're doing is leveraging this through your legacy story. And therefore, what is taking place is you are starting to pick up the education story. Over the years, I figured out there's educating approaches that make sense. Not to say that there aren't a bunch more, but there's 12 that I've together into a certain kind of pattern. One of my first books was about 9 of them. I'm in the process of writing the book with the 12 and bringing a new pattern forward that meets up with lives, younger, older, elder. So with education here, this is really about what it means to say to yourself, how will I be civil in others? That's one way to look at education. And how might I be the best way education? And you're doing that for yourself, but then you're saying, well, what can others? So I can learn what it is to be civil and to be the best person I can be. What can I do to help others realize that, find their fun and freedom and fulfillment? And that's where the next aspect of this comes forward, which is to take a look at the ideas of evidence, education, and experience, the basics, the model. So actually taking a look at what whole and bringing it into a way in which you could use it to be able to frame up this legacy and understand, okay, that you are going to be using mentoring. So whereas you're bringing this evidence into education, you're bringing your education into your evidence and playing with it. It's sort of like a dance that's taking place. You can think of it like a teeter-totter balance. You're playing with it. And therefore, if you learn the tools and techniques, the programs and projects, products and services that go with this, you can figure out what legacy is going to be about. So this is actually taking everything the time, remember that library I had in behind me, putting the tools and techniques together to be of service to you so that you can use, so that creative process, remember that recreation, about recreation, about the being a creator, an eco-creator, enviro-creator, on to play, and being for the world with the planet from the whole notion of the creative process. But one of the areas that I'd really like to bring in is, how does nature fit into that relationship as nature that you can use as an educator of the legacy, that because of living the life that you have, this hale and hearty life, this extraordinary life, this good, remarkable, extraordinary life. How might you use techniques of the creative process to get you moving forward? And what's the movement that you're going to take out? What are you going to do? So there is this sense of the physical movement, that fitness of a body and mind, that to keep things relevant for you, keep yourself in motion. And then there's, what is it that you're doing? What's it leading to? Where are you going? Others. There's a movement that unfolds from the programs and projects all the way up to, are you getting yourself involved in a movement, like the environmental movement, a movement dealing with homelessness, a movement dealing with regeneration, a movement dealing with water issues, a movement dealing with how to reframe some political regulation. There's different kind of social cultural movements that you can get involved with because of the evidence that you've gained here, and moving it through, you can start to use these tools to frame that up for yourself. Now, all of this is in that library. This comes because of my life that I've lived. So you have a life that you live that we can tap into. Using the tools and techniques is where we can get into the sense of creating experiences. And what we have here is, you can create an experience so that you can experience something, so that you can figure out if the experience was of value to you. You can reflect in and on, and do the same thing with the group that you wanted to interact with. So the legacy that you're playing with as the experience, using education as an example, again, there's different kind of educating approaches that I've mentioned, is that you're leveraging your experiences. And therefore, you are learning from new experiences. So, in a sense, what's taking place here is that you are drawing forward all of this as new experience. Now you're probably going, "Oh, there's a lot going on that page." And you're still here with me, wonderful, because as time goes by, I'm going to break this up more and more and more so that there's different elements to it. What I wanted to share is that you are here. You are here in your history as you move it through the presence and is that you would like to do from a legacy point of view, which starts to move into your mystery. Then what you're doing, your experience, you are determining the quality of your events. These are ways in which to live this hale and hearty life. And by looking at this diagram, it's just the way in which to portray it. But on an everyday basis, what is it that you have here that you want to leverage, lover in age, that you want to share with others? So your unique journey as you adventure together, what is it that you would like to do from a legacy point of view using an educating approach of your choice to meet those you want to interact with? That's what this is about. This is just a quick map of what is possible for. It's how I live my life. This is what I'm doing. This is the second story of my life. And it's one that I would like to bring out of that library, all the tools and techniques and more books and courses that would be of use to you. So I'm hoping here that you can see the aesthetics of what's possible, the potential for you. And therefore, that sets me up to share the third story with. I thought that I would add this bridge component between story number 2 and story number 3, and it links to my YouTube channels. And I thought that I would bring it forward because you're watching this video most likely on YouTube, and it's one of the channels that I'm interacting with, which is WELLth Learning TV. And in some of the videos on a Sunday, I also do what's called the Statsy bit. So this is the Statsy bit, and I'm doing it just to give you a sense of what's happening as I am growing out the channels that are influencing my interactions with you. Because for those of you who comment and subscribe and do the watch hours, then that helps to work these numbers, which brings the messaging, the videos out to more persons. So I thought I'd just share and make a connection here for you so that you might understand what's taking place. So from a YouTube perspective, watch time and subscribers are two of the main metrics that YouTube is using. So in 365 days, from a watch time perspective, you're to get a number of 4,000 or above. When it comes to the subs, the subscribers to what you're doing, you need 1,000. So those are sort of the magic numbers. So from a WELLth Learning TV, which is to do mostly with what's happening in terms of the story number 2, is an important one because this is the one that I'm attempting to grow at this point in time. So currently I have 164 watch hours and 222 subscribers. Well, it's getting there. It was a lot less than that a little time ago, and over the last couple of weeks it has grown, and I'm watching it happen, and I'm attempting to figure out what to do with the videos and again, your comments help me to improve what's taking place. So that's great. What I also wanted to acknowledge is that I have a couple of other YouTube channels that are linked to what's happening. The next one is Awareness, and it's to do with the awareness from forests. This is the nature component. This is that legacy story that I have that's unfolding. And currently, I'm at 62 watch hours and 57 subscribers. The other one that I'm dealing with is the international mentoring community, and it's about all things mentoring and from a certification point of view. And what I have here is 27 watch time with 40 subscribers. So these interact because the main story is here in the WELLth Learning TV. The awareness is the legacy project that I've created to illustrate that if you put what's I'm sharing with you into action, you would start to create a legacy project. This is just one of many. And with your interactions and your comments, we can learn about the other ones that you're doing. And the IMC is here to support all things mentoring, to support the idea of mentoring as legacy. So if this is an example and this is helping, then it's this platform that it's working with. And that's what I'm attempting to do is, so it isn't always just conceptual. There's actual practice here. What am I learning as I'm doing what I'm doing? And by working with YouTube, along with the other social media channels, what I'm attempting to do is give you my digital media footfall in terms of interacting with the whole. So again, you have a great part to play here, and that's why I wanted to acknowledge this bridge between the story of presence and this next story that's going to unfold, which is about the mystery. The third story I want to share with you is linked to the mystery. It's about living from the future. It's where am I headed and interacting with you to help you create your mystery, your future story you can live from. And for some of you, you may say, this might be kind of fun to get involved with some of the projects that he's working on. Great. I certainly welcome you to get involved. It would have a nature feel to it. It would be somewhere where there are trees and water. Now, the water could be the coastline. It could be a lake. It could be a river. A view of a landscape that's more than just a flat, a little bit of ruggedness would be great. This is the kind of picture that would be around me. This is the kind of landscape that I would see each day as I got up. My mystery story, it's in counterpoint in a sense to my history. History, mystery. History is high. Here's my story. Mystery is that this is my starry. Starry is Scottish for star. My star. You might say the North Star, whatever way which to sort of talk about that future, looking out there, all right, is my mystery. And I wanted to share mine with you so you just might understand a way of looking at unfolding your mystery in a way that tickles your heart. It brings a tear to your heart's eye. And if you can do that, then you know you have the inspiration to move forward. And then you interact with your well-being and your well-living in a way that encourages your movement. And therefore, the WELLth Learning TV, I'll just use my YouTube channels here. WELLth Learning TV has the sense of that diagram I just shared with you. That's that diagram. And WELLth Learning TV is helping to bring that forward. Awareness is about the awareness of trees and forests. Remember, I was making reference to if I interact with you and monetize this, then I can plant the trees to grow the forests. And that's where this one comes in. So awareness is my main legacy story. If I'm going to be known for anything, it will be around the story of awareness and what that brings for the world with the planet from the whole. The IMC is to get the person's understanding and becoming better at their mentoring as an educating approach, and or bringing forward the different educating approaches so that one can say, well, if it isn't mentoring, what else might be there for me to interact with? And therefore, you can probably guess mentoring as legacy is this component here, so that these are what I'm wanting to do. Now, here is the beautiful part of what's unfolding for me. This is my decision about how I want to be for the world with the planet from the whole. WELLth Learning TV and what this is all about is when I am 80 years young, I will sell this because I believe that I will have created enough base that a younger might say, I'm turning in older, maybe this is something I would like to do and like to get involved with this and purchase it and therefore leverage this going forward. So in a sense, this could be a legacy project, story, contributions that I sell moving forward. That would be great. The awareness from a legacy point of view, that's goes until I transition, and whatever I can leave as my legacy. So I intend to live awareness so that I can leave it as a legacy, project, story, and contributions. Now, here is where I am really going to enjoy my 75th and onwards, is because I want to write a whole series of mystery, fantasy, allegory books built on some characters that help to explain the key learnings, all right, that I've come up with over my years, and leave them behind as bestsellers, as my children, in a sense, in the National Library of Canada, so that I planted the trees, grown the forests. I have left a legacy. If this is what can happen for me, that's great. That's what I am going to work on. So I have started playing already. You will eventually learn more about Walter Hibbett, Lone Meadows, and Panay Ashkinson. You'll also learn about Gaffidlin. These are all characters that I'm bringing forward through awareness. Now, I'm not going to sell this one to anyone, but if I have enough people who continue on the ideas of what it is I've set in motion, that will tickle my heart, bring a tear to my heart's eye. Which leaves me with IMC. What I'm attempting to do here is, again, create something that I could sell, but already this is in co-creation. I co-created this with someone. And what we're looking at doing is saying, can we get to a point where certification of mentors is available in support of those who want to take on mentor and gain the mentor practices, to be able to understand the concepts of mentorship in such a way is that we can improve this educating approach, focus it, strengthen this educating approach. If we can do that and then sell that, then again, that would be a great contribution. Because this is co-created, what I'm doing is I'm using it as an example of, if I'm on my unique journey, this is a way in which I am adventuring together. Not to say that I won't adventure together here, but this is a working example for those who may want to understand what I meant about unique journey, adventure together, and how it plays itself out. Now, if this works and really starts to leverage out into the world, that would be great. I said to my co-creator, by my 75th, 76 years young revolution, we will have created this enough that we could sell it so that others can bring this forward and use it for the younger, older, elder dynamics, wherever they may be. And that could be, how do we use IMC to support peer mentoring in schools? How might we bring that forward? So that's something else that I want to leverage as we bring this story of mentoring as legacy forward. So I wanted to share this with you just so that you might understand is there's evidence that you bring through the presence of what it is that you are framing up, what it is that you want to do, your be, have, do, and some sense of your mystery, what it is that you want to place in front of yourself to live from. So this is my story, the backdrop of knowing how I'm using YouTube. There's other social media channels that I'm contributing, but most of my effort's going to be through the YouTube. So this is my story of mystery. Thank you for having reached this section, which is the moving forward aspect of the video. So again, I wanted to bring forward 3 stories that I could share with you. The story of my history, the sense of presence, what I'm interacting with, what I'm attempting to do to interact with yourself, and my sense of mystery. What am I working from? These 3 storylines of history, presence, mystery, they're in your life as well. And if I can be of assistance to you in bringing those forward for you, mapping them out, figuring out diagrams and models that you might be able to work with, your steps and actions that you can take, then please get a hold of us. In the description will be ways in which to connect with us. But also, I would encourage you, comment. What is it that you would want to edit to this? What would you want to add, alter, delete? That's one way of looking at it. Is there something in your own life that you might continue, stop, or start up because of the video? Please leave your comments. And alternatively, if that doesn't quite work for you because a little too public, great. If you go to wellthmovement.com/contact, you can leave me a private message and we can interact that way. I'll do whatever I can to assist you in your movement forward, to understand the story of your evidence interacting with education and therefore being able to create these extraordinary experiences for yourself, to balance up your history and your mystery and your presence. And what would that look like? I would so appreciate the opportunity to share time with you. And there will be courses, there's books. If you go to wellthmovement.com, there will be more being added. I'm just doing some new writing, and that will be added up as well. So with that, I think I probably shared more than enough to give you a sense of what's going on. I also included the Statsy bit for YouTube. And there will be times when I'll explain a little bit more about how I am leveraging YouTube, and I'll share some of the other social media channels that I'm interacting with, so you might understand my digital footfall and see how that unfolds. But again, if you comment and interact, and I know what I can do to assist you, that would be wonderful, wonderful. So with that,